Okay, you spooky bitch, grab your keys because you asked and we're going to Cemetery Pulp.
We went to Cemetery Pulp, which is a little store in Las Vegas. This oddity shop called Cemetery Pulp. Today we're at Cemetery Pulp. Cemetery Pulp in Las Vegas has everything you could desire. Cemetery Pulp. Cemetery Pulp.
So let's go.
I'm Chris Commit, the owner of Cemetery Pulp. Cemetery Pulp, we started it in 2021, and it was kind of a culmination of what we had seen in market events. We've been doing a lot of vendor markets where we set up in a bar, a bunch of like-minded kind of vendors and artists, and all people were coming in buying wet specimens and skulls and bone jewelry and things like that. We were wearing, Marvel t-shirts, Lord of the Rings t-shirts, D&D things. They were all in that same kind of vein. The guys walk in, they go straight to the comics or the D&D stuff, and the girls go straight to the dead stuff. And it's not always that way, but it usually is down those lines. We're not trying to pigeonhole anybody at all, but there is an archetype that's been in a lot of movies and TVs for the same kind of reason, the goth girl and the nerdy guy. When we first started, it was a little bit more bare. It was more just building the product, getting those things in the store, kind of making sure they were all here in the right places. My ex-wife had a very good idea with the ceiling. That was her brainstorm. And then I used to do car wraps, so the walls kind of came from that. And that's something that really I love when people kind of notice. It's like, oh, the attention to detail in here is so nice. It's that last little thing of this is someplace neat and magical and hidden. Biggest mission we have is making sure that people who don't have a place to go have a place to go. We obviously are a business, so we have to have that kind of, got to keep the lights on kind of thing going. But for the most part, we also want to make sure that we're giving back to the community as much as we can. When we started out doing those vendor markets, it was a lot of making sure that everybody's getting represented. We had all these small artists and vendors who didn't really have a platform because they didn't have their own shop. They didn't have, a big space like a big flea market where they can go just have a little bit of things there. For local artists here and things that I buy, I try to treat it the same way I treat the big vendors. So I'll buy things wholesale, and that way they get their money straight up front. There's no waiting for that kind of thing. I try to make sure that it's the easiest transition for everybody. I want to sell things for what they're selling their stuff at their table. So that way if people come into our store, they go, oh, well, it's online, it's this price. I want to make sure that even locals get treated the same way that my big vendors do. And it's an important thing for them to feel the same respect. Our goal was to keep the cost down for local artists and vendors to make sure they could showcase their stuff. And then when we have the store, we can now buy their stuff, put it in the store, have local artists and vendors from Vegas showcasing what they do here, and have a place that, they can kind of get their name out. We want to make sure that all the stuff here is as ethical as possible. There's a farm we work with out in the Philippines that actually does raise butterflies in captivity and then releases them out in the wild. So they'll release some out in the wild, keep some in kind of captivity like that. That way they're kind of putting back in the ecosystem. And most butterflies, like 3 to 4 days. So there's not a very long lifespan. So once they die, pick them up off the ground and ship them out to us. Get them all dried up, and then they're, out here so we can actually play with them and teach with them and show everybody how to pin and deal with bugs and butterflies and beetles and things like that. It's very fun. A lot of the pet stores that are around will donate to us, or I will work a trade with them where I either give them art or I promise them, hey, I'm going to buy all of these things from you. If you can kind of work with me on your dead, I'll make sure that gets taken care of as well. And most places do want to just have their dead go someplace nice. A lot of the big heads we have in the wall, big game heads we have in the wall, those are from the 80s and 90s. So that's kind of a recycling mission in itself, where we restore those pieces because now they're still here. You don't have to go out and kill another one. Trying to turn that little tragedy into something better is kind of how we're doing everything. I'm an animal lover. Honestly, I can't watch animals suffer. Like, it's too tough for me. I get choked up just talking about it. So we always want to make sure we're getting back to animal sanctuaries, animal rescues, things like that. So when we do the markets and such, we're always making sure there's a beneficiary for our charity raffles, things like that. So I always try to make sure that, for example, Gilcrease Animal Sanctuary was one of the ones we do a lot. Homeward Bound Cat Rescue. Animal Help Alliance is another one we do a lot with, trying to make sure that they all get the help they need. And if we can do a charity raffle and raise them $500-600, that's great in our book. So we also want to make sure we make our art here too, because we want to make sure that the stuff we make is local made, and making sure that you can kind of see a little microcosm of what we do here too. We do a lot of the skull cleaning ourselves, so we actually do clean a fair amount of skulls ourselves. I have a beetle tank at home that I have domestic beetles that actually eat flesh. So some of the stuff we get from pet stores, I'll put in those tanks so we get just the bones out of those. We then use the bones to make little cloche dome arts or shadow boxes. We try to keep those things varied and not the same thing twice. We do all the wet specimens ourselves, all the diaphanizations. Len does all those, which is a crazy scientific process that is just time-consuming and just very meticulous. And it's not something everybody else can do too. So it's kind of a little thing that sets us apart from most of the other stores, even in the country, which is nice.
I've been working with Cemetery Pulp technically since February or March, but I've been with the shop unofficially for probably like two and a half years. I just started showing up. Like, I was a customer. My best friend had gotten me a coyote skull for my birthday, and I was like, it's kind of dirty and this shop looks like they could clean it. So I came in and they were like, yeah, we'll take care of it, whatever. And then I just kept coming back. I kind of do a little bit of everything besides like D&D and comics. I pin bugs, I do the shadow boxes, the frames, the domes, and I do the diaphanizations and wet specimens. I just really like bugs. It gave me something to do with them, I guess. Like, I'm not gonna raise butterflies. Like, I was like, I'll take them when they're already done, and they already passed, and I'll make something cool out of it. So that's probably my favorite thing that I do. I like the clothing aspect a lot as well. I told Chris I was gonna say the most challenging part of my job is dealing with him. He's like, this is gonna be your dwarf name. I'm like, yeah, dude, cool. Yeah. I don't really have any overly challenging parts of my job or like my role here. Like, sometimes it gets stressful, but not in a bad way. Me and Chris work really well together. And like, things that I don't know, he could pick up the slack for that and vice versa. Like, I told him, I was like, I'll handle like 85% of the dead shit if you'll take all the nerd shit. Stigmas to break or overcome. Yeah, a hard one is that like we're automatically Satanists. I'm a Sunday school teacher. Like, just because we have it doesn't necessarily, like, we have people come in, like, you have a Ouija board, like, you've obviously played with this in the shop, like, I don't want to be here. Like, no, actually, like, I've never done that. I've never played with a Ouija board. Like, you could buy it and you could do whatever you want with it, but not me. I've always really liked having like the shop just exist in general, because I feel like it's important for a lot of people. We don't really have anything else that's both like nerdy and spooky and weird, and I feel like it attracts a lot of people, and I feel like it's a good beacon to have here. I tell Chris it's like the island of misfit toys. We just collect all these little misfit toys. Like, anybody who's like, you know, too weird or too strange or I don't know, too dumb, like, we take all of them. So like, it's just, we take whoever like I guess isn't fit for society and we just give them a space. Like, not too crazy, obviously. I'm not housing like murderers, but like whoever needs somebody to talk to, like whatever it may be. Like, me and Chris always listen to everybody and anybody. We can't be like the people who work at the weird store and judge people for being too weird. Like, so we don't ever really mind.
I don't even remember the first time. At least a couple of years though, definitely. I came with a best friend of mine to do a butterfly pinning class, and then that turned into another one, and then like a moth class, and then I was like buying books, and then I was coming on my own, and then it just snowballed from there. Yeah, so it's definitely a couple of years, but it's been bringing me back over and over and over. Especially at the beginning of the year, and what drew me to start to come to these events and really come alone, not always rely on a friend, was this desire to get back to a place where I used to be, where I was a little bit more outgoing and a little bit more confident. And over time, the dredges of every day really caught up to me, and I was becoming someone who was maybe a little bit more of a hermit. I was isolating myself a little bit more, and the anxiety started to come out in like full force. So the motivations for me were very much to try and find some places where I could go and do things alone and find that part of myself again. And it just happened to be along the way that like I met great people and then I can't get enough. Part of growing and going through changes and aging just in general is finding new interests, finding new things, and deciding that is the person that you are today the person that you want to continue to be. And I think along my journey of reinvention and just connecting with who I really want to be and the impact that I want to have on people, Cemetery Pulp has really come into a unique time and place in my life. I firmly believe that people remember how you make them feel, and that has been a bit of a mission of mine this year. And it's been really special to find a place where I feel so welcome and loved.
The biggest thing we want to do with classes is getting rid of gatekeeping, because it's very, very prominent in oddities and the nerd culture. The biggest thing with D&D, especially Dungeons and Dragons, is people who want to enter that kind of game, they're like, well, I know that they're going to be mean to me if I don't know how to play. If the people who are playing at my table are mean to somebody else, they're going to leave. I try to make sure that this table is the most inviting thing you can sit at. With the butterfly pinning, the beetle pinning, a lot of places, a lot of people online don't want to tell you how to do that. They want to make it look as complicated as possible so that you're out there buying their art and having to pay their prices where you could do some of your stuff at your home. Obviously, there's things you want to buy that are by artists you like. No one's going to stop you from doing that. But having the option to go out there and make it yourself makes it your own.
I like when I can spend as much time here as possible, so the longer the better. I joke a lot that my favorite class is actually when we did Ukrainian egg painting. It took 4 hours, but it was so fun and unique. It's not something that you're going to see anywhere else. I maybe have a dozen butterflies and moths on my walls. I have quite a few little wet specimens around, and I just, you see them, you look at it, you go, wow, what a great time that was. We had a D&D run recently too, and it was wild. Someone new came, and this person literally was not here for D&D. They don't live in Vegas. They flew in for Best Friends, the concert, and they literally Googled where could I do a D&D, found Cemetery Pulp, and they played a one-shot with us. It was wild. Talk about bringing people together in unexpected, really surprising, and exciting ways.
The city is definitely focused on tourists, but the locals make it run, and we want to make sure that there's a place that locals and tourists alike can come down and find this little hidden gem.
I think it gives people different perspective on themselves, different perspective on other people. I think it's good that people in Vegas have this sort of an area to mingle and chat with other weird people.
I grew up in a really small town in Oregon, and I didn't get exposed to as many different types of people as I have in my adult life. And being able to move and travel and try new things and just be willing to be open to the possibility of new experiences is, I think, what helps us connect with each other and grow too. We're at a time, just in general in the world, where it's harder and harder and harder to get outside of your circle. It's harder to branch outside of who you have at school or at work or in your inner knit. And any chance or opportunity that you have to maybe step outside of what your original comfort zone might be, or outside of and into a group of people that maybe don't think exactly the same as you, but have similar alliances to certain values and things, it's a great opportunity to widen your circle, give yourself perspectives that aren't just what you see in front of you in the tunnel vision of the everyday. To make the conscious effort to keep coming back and keep being a patron here is something that's been really important to me. I want this place to survive for others. And in order to do that, I do keep coming back because I want to be involved in making sure it's here.
I really think that people who are afraid or nervous or coming from a conservative background or whatever, this place really strives to have one of everybody. The goal is to make people feel comfortable in an uncomfortable situation.
I think that the main thing that we want to kind of present and have everybody take away from this place is that it's different every time you come in. We're not that scary, I swear. And if you want something that's here, because we make a lot of stuff, you can always ask. We really want to make sure that people know that there's a cool creative place that you can kind of come and make art here with us. You give people the tools and the creativity and the freedom to kind of play, and it's great to watch that happen. So come down and play a game or play with some dead stuff. I think that's kind of what it comes down to.
Las Vegas promises a million ways to escape reality, but for those who wander into this particular corner of the city, the escape is different. It's not about bright lights or high stakes. It's about being seen for who you are. Cemetery Pulp became more than a store. It became a clubhouse, a little beacon of both dark and light. And the objects they collect, the memories, the oddities, the stories, they aren't just relics of the past. They're the language of a community. In a city of shimmering illusion, where every resident seems to be a tourist lingering between acts, and the architecture is built on the promise of elsewhere, Cemetery Pulp proves that even the most distinctive passions can build a real, vibrant home right here in Las Vegas.